Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the August 16th, 2022 edition, brought to you by, I'm proud to say, Temple City Auto Repair. If you need some help, then you need some John and Henry looking at your car. You can check out their website at templecityauttorepair.com. Hey, really good to be back. Really good to have a sponsor to talk about a little bit there. And hey, just talking some football. A lot of things happening. Rams cut some players, got some injury news, and then I want to talk a little bit about this unique coincidence between Buford McGee, who is celebrating his 62nd birthday today, very underrated in Rams history, and Rams legend Harold Jackson. But before we get to that, let's just talk about a couple things. Matthew Stafford was back out on the field today, and I guess he threw the ball really well, which is really a good thing. Awesome sauce. That's great. Really happy about that. And not a surprise. Not a surprise. I think if there was something serious going on, I think the Rams are not a team that sits on its hands and waits and hopes to get better. I really believe, and you have to believe this, that if there was really the possibility that somehow Matthew Stafford wasn't going to be on the field the first 6 weeks of the season or something, the Rams would have made a deal. They would have done something. And instead, Stafford came out, threw the ball well. They said they were happy with him, and awesome, great, everything's good. And then, of course, they came out with some of the injury reports, and Jacob Harris is back on the field. We know Bobby Brown is not going to need any kind of surgery, just recovery time, and so all that stuff's good news. The one thing that did strike me as funny, and this led me to thinking out loud and from the Ram Cave today, which is posted at joeterosian.com and is plastered all over social media. Click on From the Ram Cave. Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson are dealing with soft tissue injuries. And, soft tissue injuries. They have not played they don't play preseason. They're not going to play preseason, but they've got soft tissue injuries already. Kyron Williams busted his foot in OTAs. And the reason he's not playing right now is because they're trying to get him ready and everything for the season, which is, again, so funny because the Rams don't play starters and rotational players that I think they're going to be in the rotation. They don't play them in the preseason so that they don't get hurt. But here, the Rams' top three running backs, well, set aside where you want to place Jake Funk, Cam, Darrell, and Kyron, they're all hurt. Maybe they should play preseason. I don't know. But it just seems kind of funny is that the Rams do all this stuff to protect these guys from getting hurt, and then Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and Kyron Williams are all hurt. And this is a reminder that, there's talk of the Rams going to keep 3 running backs, 4 running backs. I just think the Rams need to keep 4 running backs. They just have to. And we're going to talk a little bit about running backs and touches and everything in tomorrow's From the Ram Cave. And but the Rams need to keep 4. So I don't know what that means. If that, I heard people speculating between 7 and 8 wide receivers. Wow, that's a bit much. I don't know how that's going to work. And somebody that you like is going to go. Somebody that you like could disappear, could be released, and or as I've been saying all along, I really think somebody in the wide receiver room, some of the guys in the DB room, somebody could get traded. And looking around the league, who's injured, who's got injuries, who needs something, because some of these guys you try to pass through waivers onto the practice squad. It's not going to happen. They're not going to pass through waivers to the practice squad. Yeah, Landon Akers will pass to the practice squad. J.J. Koski will pass to the practice squad. Raymond Calais will pass to the practice squad. But some of these other guys, they're not going to pass to the practice squad. And so the Rams are going to make some hard calls, and they're going to lose some people. But I do believe they need to go into the season with 4 running backs. And then we'll see. We'll see also. So the Rams made 5 cuts. And those cuts were Luis Perez, quarterback, Cameron Dicker, the kicker punter, Adrian Eli, guard, Jamal Pettigrew, tight end, and Cesar Dancy Williams, Wisconsin, out of Wisconsin. I'm sorry. And Caesar Dancy Williams, we kind of knew. We pegged it was going to happen. It wasn't any surprise that he would go this early. He got torched a little bit on that first, second or third Charger touchdown. I think it was the second one. And so he was given his walking papers. Luis Perez was also given his walking papers. And I remember people getting all worked up a little bit, like, oh, the USFL guy, he's going to play for the Rams. And we were saying he's just a camp arm. But the thing about Luis Perez is I thought they'd keep him around for another week because otherwise, why were they sitting John Wolford? And because Wolford's going to be in the rotation. Wolford's going to be the number 2. But does this mean now that Wolford will be getting some snaps? Because I find hard to believe that they're going to run Bryce Perkins out there for all 12 quarters of preseason, 3 games, 12 quarters. Is he going to play every snap of the preseason? Or maybe, perhaps, is Wolford going to take some snaps the next 2 weeks? And maybe he needs to take some snaps. We talked about this yesterday. He needs to take some snaps. So that's what made me start thinking with Luis Perez getting cut so quick. I thought he would make it to the next round. Jamal Pettigrew, Eli, like we said, no surprise there. Got a nice picture of Jamal Pettigrew. Happy to put that up there. I hope something happens for him. Big dude, 6 whatever, 247 blocking back, McNeese State. We hope it works out for him. And Dicker out of Texas got cut. And I just thought with they're resting Matt Gay with Riley Dixon. I just thought they would keep Dicker around at least through the end of August and then give him his walking papers. But they did it now. And maybe that's just so he can have a shot catching on with someone else. And just thought that was interesting. As we come up to the 7-minute mark and shortened from RamView. This is RamView, not from the Ram Cave. I'm Joe Tarosian, and I was a sports writer. I still am kind of doing this stuff, but I was a paid sports writer for 21 years, was one of the founding folks at Mid-Valley Sports, where my friends are still working. They cover the Chargers, and I write books. Tangent Dreams and Temple City Company of the Ages are my 2 high school football novels that have did pretty well. I'm also a pastor of a small church in Burbank, and I've written several explicitly Christian books, and you can catch those. They're all on Amazon, or you can read about them on joetarosian.com. Straightened out some of the stuff I had going on there on joetarosian.com. It's not where I want it to be, but it survived my disaster. So if you want to check it out there, and I'd appreciate it. I'm also on Twitter at JoeT13B. I'm also on Instagram at the same handle, JoeT13B. And I'm also on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow here. Really appreciate your subscriptions, your likes. Hit the like button twice if you don't like it. And we'll build our footprint here as we get talking more and more about this NFL season. So there we go. Wow. I don't think I was talking that fast, but I guess I am. And dates are funny things as I go into this last segment here. And so bear with me. Again, this is posted in From the Ram Cave, but I thought it was fun stuff to talk about because I'm a thread guy. I like to see, how a trade translated, 10 years down the road. They traded for somebody, got a draft pick, used that draft pick, that player played, then got traded and moved on. I do that kind of stuff. I like to see where dates match up. And so I'm going to start right here in terms of dates or funny things. It's August 16th, we know. But on June the 8th, 1973, the Rams traded iconic quarterback Roman Gabriel to the Philadelphia Eagles. In return, they got Tony Baker, who was a short yardage specialist, touchdown Tony Baker, scored a lot of touchdowns for the Rams in goal line situations in 73 and 74. They also got back from the Eagles 2 first-round picks. The 11th overall in 74, which they turned into John Capoletti, and the 11th overall in 1975 that they turned into Dennis Harrah, which wasn't too bad. Plus, they also got a 3rd-round pick that they dealt, and they got a wide receiver named Harold Jackson. And I shouldn't have to explain too much about Harold Jackson to Ram fans. So that was June 8th, 1973. On June 8th, 1987, the Rams traded Barry Redden. Redden had been a first-round draft pick of the Rams in 1982, 14th overall. The Rams moved up to get him, and there's great discussion. That's a whole nother thread to talk about who the Rams traded or the draft picks they traded to move up in the draft to draft Barry Redden, only to change coaches, right? Remember Malavasi was the head coach in 82. Maybe you don't remember. He was at the end of his run, and they brought in Barry Redden. And then in 83, John Robinson came in, and of course the Rams drafted Eric Dickerson. And now Redden spent some time as the off-back, the fullback, the first backup, the rotational guy. But by 1987, at the end of 86, the Rams traded Barry Redden on June the 8th, 1987, to the Chargers for Buford McGee and a second-round pick. That second-round pick was 46th overall in 1988, and it turned out to be a guy named Flipper Anderson, which is pretty cool. But again, I thought that was kind of interesting stuff, right? The reason is because why does that match up besides the dates being similar with Buford McGee and Harold Jackson? Well, on August 16th, on this very day, 44 years ago, the Rams traded Harold Jackson to New England for a third and fourth round pick. Both became inconsequential, but that was August 16th, 1978, and the Rams traded Jackson to New England. And then on this day, August 16th, 2022, Buford McGee turns 62. I just thought there was an interesting correlation, a couple of correlations there between Buford McGee and Harold Jackson that you would never see, that both were traded to the Rams on June the 8th. Jackson gets traded August 16th, which is the same day as Buford McGee's birthday. So happy 62nd birthday to Buford McGee. And the background on McGee is kind of cool. McGee was drafted 11th round, 286 overall in 1984 by the Chargers out of Ole Miss. And he was there for 3 seasons. And you know, that was at the height of Air Coryell, 84 through 86. There was it was starting to fade a little bit, but, you know, you had Fouts throwing to Wes Chandler. Winslow blew out his knee in 84, and he was pretty much done after that. But they had James Brooks, if you remember James Brooks. They had Lionel Littletrain, James. They had Gary Anderson. They had Severs. They had Holohan. They had guys to throw the ball to. And, you know, Charlie Joyner played for a long time. But McGee was on some of those offenses there in San Diego. After 3 years, he was traded to the Rams and played in Anaheim from 1987 through 1991. And he served 3 years as a starter / fullback, H-back. And if you think about those days, you know, in 87, Dickerson got traded and the Rams were running Charles White in 87. And then in 88, 89, it was Greg Bell. And if you saw fullback in the backfield, it was generally Buford McGee blocking for Greg Bell, but he was playing more fullback H-back. And if you remember, the guy that had that spot before was Mike Gooman. And but McGee caught 127 passes for the Rams, 37 in 89 when they made their conference title run, and a career high in 47 as Georgia started to pull the wheels off. And so McGee had a nice run with the Rams. At the end of the 91 season, he left and he ended up going for a cup of coffee, played 3 or 4 games in Green Bay in 92 and called it a career. But a nice little run there for Buford McGee. He was a good Ram, lost in all that stuff that was the drama of the Rams in those days. Nice run with the Rams. So happy birthday to Buford McGee, who turns 62 today. And then it gets back to Harold Jackson, who, you know, Harold Jackson is the reason I never lost my love for the Rams. I talk about October 14th, 1973, as the day I was cemented as a Ram fan. Became a Ram fan a little bit in 72, caught the tail end of that Tommy Prothero, last hurrah for Roman Gabriel, and then really opened my eyes and got involved when I was 9 years old with the Rams in 73. Chuck Knox, John Hadel, the new uniforms, right? The new awesome uniforms they started wearing in 73. They went 12-2, but on October 14th, 1973, the Rams beat the Cowboys 37-31, largely on the strength of Harold Jackson's 4 first-half touchdown catches from John Hadel. And we didn't even see the game. We had to listen to it in our back room as Dick Enberg made the call, and we would just be listening to it. And you'd hear Enberg just screaming these, you know, play action fake to Bertelson. Hadel's going long to Jackson. You know, Harold has it at the 10 and he will dance in for the score. I mean, these were just things that just my mind and memory took a picture of. So there was no way I could ever not be a Ram fan. Tried to disown them when they moved to St. Louis. Couldn't do it. Their family. I'm a Rams fan. But Jackson's story was unique, is that he was initially drafted by the Rams, 12th round, 323 overall, 1968, out of Jackson State. And who was the head coach then? Oh, it was George Allen. And Allen, for some reason, didn't think much of Harold Jackson. And the very next year, he was traded. I don't even think he played it down. I think he was taxi squad. He was traded in 1969 along with a guy named John Zook. Now, if you're a Ram fan, the name John Zook, you might remember him playing for the Atlanta Falcons in the 70s, being a pretty good defensive end, but we can go into that later. But Jackson was traded to the Eagles for a player named Izzy Lang. And Izzy Lang, I think, had one carry for George Allen's Rams, and his career was over. So after the 72 season, the Rams made that big trade in June of 73, and Jackson returned to the Rams. And what an amazing compliment. Again, I go back Klosterman, right? The Rams are running this great ground game with Chuck Knox, right? So you've got McCutcheon running for 1,097 yards in 12 games. It's a 14-game season, but I think he missed 2 with a hamstring. And then you had Jim Bertelsen, running for 854 and catching a few passes out of the backfield. And then the Rams had the ultimate guy, who was a possession receiver, who we've termed a possession receiver, in Jack Snow, who only caught about 15 passes. And then they had this amazing home run complement, and his name was Harold Jackson. And that first year, he caught 40 passes. Now, your number 3 receiver is considered catching a 40 passes. You know, I think Van Jefferson caught over 50 last year as the number 3. And Harold Jackson was all pro, caught 40 passes, scored 13 touchdowns. And he was this amazing thing where, you know, you had to fill the box to stop the Rams running game. And then the Rams could go long with Jackson, who can torch everybody. And so from 73 through 77, Jackson was just this outstanding receiver for the Rams. Never caught over 50 balls with the Rams, mind you. Kind of like the whole Paul Warfield treatment. You look at Warfield's big reception numbers, and the reception numbers weren't big from the 60s up to about 78. Those reception numbers weren't big for any receiver. If you caught 60 passes, you were considered outstanding. I remember the year Lydell Mitchell caught 72 out of the backfield, and people thought, man, that is unbelievable. But Jackson was a lot like Paul Warfield, just this great complement to an outstanding running game that kept everybody honest. And so Harold Jackson, 73 through 77, he scored a touchdown in 74, 75, 76, 77. All those playoff games the Rams were in, he scored a touchdown every postseason for the Rams. He averaged 18 yards a catch for the Rams. When he was in New England, after being traded to New England, he averaged 20 yards a reception. He had several good seasons in New England. And he made a brief stop in Minnesota in 82 before finishing up with Chuck Knox in Seattle in 1983 and closing his career in an AFC title loss to the Los Angeles Raiders. So it's just another conference title loss for Jackson. And I'm going to bring that up here in a second. But maybe the thing is Jackson should be getting some Hall of Fame consideration for considering the era that he played most of his career in, 68 through 83, right? He caught 579 passes, 200 of those with the Rams. He scored 76 touchdowns, and he scored 36 of those with the Rams, and he averaged someplace around 18 yards a catch. And my belief is that maybe if he didn't lose in conference finals games in 74, 75, and 76, and 1983, Harold Jackson would already be in Canton, Ohio. I just think he would be in Canton, Ohio. And you got to remember, the Rams lost in 73 in the playoffs in the first round, and they lost in 77 in the first round of the playoffs. And then New England was snake bit before Belichick got there anyway. But I just thought there was an interesting correlation between McGee and Harold Jackson that allowed us to go back and look back at a couple of a really good Ram and a Ram legend who should, I will make the argument, should be in Canton, because you had to account for him. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, folks. We're coming up to the 20-minute mark. I'm Joe Terosian, and just thank you. Thank you for letting me do this. Thank you for clicking on. Thank you for the nice comments. please hit like and subscribe. Leave comments. Love to engage. As I said, I don't get a lot of questions, but when I get questions, I love questions. All right. God bless. Take care. We're going to be back tomorrow with From the Ram Cave. We're going to be talking a little bit about Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson and the Rams backfield. Okay, folks. God bless. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.